Element 14 is personnel training and competency. And when you think about it, when we look at disinfection and cleaning, you really have three components. And I think of it as a stool. You have your equipment, you have your chemistry, and you have the individual. And when those three are working really well together, you have a very stable stool. When one of them is off, then your stool is not what you want to sit on. It's not very stable. And the training of individuals comes into play here. You really want to make sure that your personnel, whether it's contracted personnel or in-house personnel, are well trained. They're trained on the chemistries, they're trained on the equipment, and they're trained on this particular on infectious disease prevention. So how they clean and sanitize and disinfect. You know, we're moving from making things really pretty and smelling nice to, not to say that that's not important, but we want to make sure that we ensure that we are cleaning for health, that we are removing dangerous pathogens. So that training, is really important, and it is the responsibility of the facility in the facility management to ensure that their people are trained. How do you determine the competencies? Some of that can be through your audits and inspections. Sometimes I found in the past that you find that, maybe a certain part, when you're doing an audit, there's one thing that keeps coming back as you're not doing very well. Well, maybe you need to reevaluate how you're training your personnel on that particular element or that particular component. If you use contracted services for cleaning or disinfection, how are they included in your Facility Star program? That's really important. One thing that we've done in the accreditation program is embed training into your accreditation package. That microbial warrior training, the fundamentals online training component, that can be opened up. If you need more than just the embedded programs, they're available, and it's available online. And you can have your contracting services, your contractor, go through that as well. So again, what is your training and education plan? What's your curriculum for cleaning, disinfection, and infection prevention activities? And again, if you have contracted services, if that's used for cleaning and disinfection activities, explain how they will be included in your plan. Element 5, emergency preparedness and response. Do you have an emergency contingency plan or response plan? I had one facility reach out, and this was a little facility. It was a tiny facility, and they were like, I'm not sure what we're going to do. And so I took them through a scenario. I said, think about this. If somebody came into your store and they, let's say, fainted, what would you do? How are you going to handle that? And their comment was, well, I'd call 911. And I said, well, that is actually a very simplistic, but that's your emergency plan for those situations. Big, complex organizations are going to be much more, they're going to have a much more detailed emergency plan. And most of them are already in place. So provide a copy of your facility's written emergency preparedness or response plan and highlight those sections that supports your GBAC STAR program. Element 6 is your facility's infectious disease prevention practices. And I get a kick out of this because I get so many different questions. It's like, well, you're just about cleaning and disinfection. It's like, no, the accreditation program is a holistic program. And what we also have to take into consideration, because it's affecting all of our lives, is what does social distancing mean? Physical distancing. What's temperature monitoring? Hand sanitization programs. How are we going to incorporate that into a plan? And what is your plan? Do you have engineering controls? Are you going to change ventilation systems? I've had some organizations that are looking at increasing air turnover rates. And what are the administrative controls? What are the programs that you're putting in place? One of which is, maybe your cleaning strategies. Maybe you're going to clean more often, disinfect more often, disinfect differently than you have before. Provide a copy of that facility's plan for your prevention programs. The social distancing or we'll call physical distancing, has been very interesting. And I think we're going to find that it's going to develop over time. If I am physical distancing and I have a window here and someone's on the other side of that window, I'm safe. But if I'm not wearing a mask and there's nothing in between us, right now the current thought is 6 feet away, according to the U.S. Center for Disease Control. Your country may have a different requirement. So think about and look into what your physical distancing is. We have some organizations, we have some jurisdictions, we have some states, some countries that are saying that to reopen, we need to do temperature monitoring. What is that look like for you? Are you going to have one person do it? Is it a station that you walk up to and it looks, there are some that will scan your face and actually give a temperature. There are others that will do a whole body scan for temperature, so that infrared scanning. What is it that you're looking at? Hand sanitization programs, and I put it as programs because we recommend obviously that people wash their hands with soap and water frequently for 20 seconds at a time. If you can't get to a hand washing station, do you have hand sanitization stations around, such as the alcohol hand sanitizers? How many do you have? If you're looking at a convention or a meeting room, you're going to need more than if you just have a small shop where you have a small lobby where there's only a few people in at a time. What are you looking at, and what does your plan look like? Element 17 is the worker health program. Now, what we're looking at here is, your facilities program for your employees. Have you ensured that the risks to worker physical and psychological health have been managed effectively? Do you have an occupational medicine type program for your individuals? When a vaccine comes available, how are you going to make that vaccine available? Think of the flu vaccines, and some such as healthcare requires that people obtain a flu vaccine if to work in the facility. Do you have a plan of what you're going to do for that? Does the worker health program include personnel whose health could be directly impacted by exposure to infectious material? What are your vulnerable populations, and how are you going to protect them from an occupational standpoint? And have in place a description of your worker health program.